Thanks a lot, Josh, and it's really a privilege to be with you. As you can see, I'm out in the car here. This week we are back in Israel. I had the privilege of started working for ICEJ Norway, and I guess most of you would know Doug, who is heading up the office there, doing an amazing job. So it's a huge privilege to work with him, and also with this guy over here. That is Marius, and the new leader of Arise, and also many know him as worship leader from the conferences. So we are here, Marius and I, this week to do some filming and connect with the headquarters and other stuff. So right now we're on our way to Tel Aviv and to meet with Shalev. And I know he's a survivor from the Nova Festival, and he's in Canada, I know, and will come to Norway in May to tell his story. So we're going to go down there and do a promotion video with him. So anyway, what I wanted to share with you is some thoughts, really some observations that I've made. And they're simple observations, but I think that leads to some deep insight behind them that it's very important for us to pray about. And it has to do with the difference or the dissonance that is between the way Israel is portrayed in the West, especially, in the Western world, but maybe other places as well, and the way Israel really is. And of course, when you come here, you see that very clearly. But even when I'm back home in Norway and I follow the Israeli news carefully, you of course see that there are two different worlds that are presented through the Israeli news and through the local news back home. But there are certain things that you cannot pick them up until you come, and so until you come here and you realize it indeed for yourself. So two things I want to speak about right now is two talks that I had or experiences that I had. One back in Norway before I came. I was outside my house and just doing stuff there in the garden, and the neighbor comes up and starts talking. And as is very often the case right now, the topic soon concerns Israel. So we started talking about Israel, and then he says like this: yeah, October 7th was horrible, and we all condemn it. But what Israel is doing right now, they're just making it worse for themselves, and more things in this direction. And we also talked about this in the office in Norway, the ICEJ office, and others had heard similar comments. And so when you sit with the information that I have and many of us have from Israel, we just can't understand why is that true? In what way can that be true, that Israel is making it worse for themselves? And then I came down here and I went to the park on Shabbat, last Shabbat. It was just a day off, and Marius hadn't arrived, so then it's really a day off. But then I went. Then I just sat in the park, and that's why I look a little red right now, because got a little too much sun. A guy came up and started talking, and we had a long, good talk. But then two families, young families, come walking into the garden or the park, and they are religious families, not ultra-Orthodox, but religious families that are dressed up for Shabbat. And they have both families. They have three small children, ages 4 to 12 or something like that, and of course in white, whereas they very often dress in during the Shabbat. And they just sit down a few meters in front of us on the lawn, and nothing unusual, so to say, except both of the men were carrying an M16 automatic rifle. And that is a contrast when you come in like holiday clothes and then you have the M16 around your shoulder. And I was just thinking, if somebody would take a picture from this and send it back to Norway and the media would write about it, what would the story be? Well, the story would probably be something like this: look how militaristic this Israeli society is. And you see that they love their weapons, and they even show them in front of their children. And you can just imagine what these children will grow up to be. And this is the sign of a violent society. Something like that would have been the general image. Maybe I put it a little more blunt than what would have been said. But that is how come they can do this. Now I come to what I believe is part of the reason that that Norwegians and Westerners, they see this so differently. Because in the media coverage back home, Israel doesn't have any threats. You know, mostly it's Israel is fighting right now, but they're fighting the civilian population in Gaza. Hamas is hardly ever mentioned, and Hezbollah never mentioned. Syria, Iran, Iraq, the Houthis, they are not there. So Israel doesn't really have a threat, and that's why when you see the destruction in Gaza, it becomes pure evil. Israel doesn't have to do this, but it's just pure evil. I'm putting it a little bit like on the extreme, but this is pretty much the sense that or the image that is given back home. And what I'm thinking about and what we need to pray into that's what, at least what on my heart, is that also Christians are carried away by this kind of information. And that's partly because we are not truth seekers. We are news consumers, but we are not truth seekers when it comes to these things. And so we are shaped and formed by the media. And we need to pray that Christians around the world will become truth seekers. And I just want to read a few verses from Proverbs. And this is from Proverbs chapter 17, verse 13. Whoever rewards evil for good, evil will not depart from his house. Because I see the danger that many, also Christians, but everyone in the Western world, they start condemning Israel and they reward evil for good. And then it says, evil will not depart from their house. And it continues in verse 15. For he who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the just, both of them are like an abomination to the Lord. So I see that many Christians are falling into this ditch, that they are justifying the wicked and condemning the just. And therefore, it has to do with this thing that we do not seek the truth enough. So that's really what I wanted us to pray about, that first of all, that there will be persons and organizations like ICJ that speaks the truth so that it can be heard, but also that people in themselves will search and be truth seekers, first of all, and afterwards be truth tellers.